Welcome to the world of science fiction Neon's Alien. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from Neon's Alien universe. The jungle was alive and angry. Trees twisted high above like claws. Vines hung heavy, dripping with purple dew. Every shadow moved. Every sound felt close. Human explorer Jonas Rell stepped carefully through the thick brush, his boots sinking into soft alien moss. His ship had crashed hours ago. The radio was dead. His food pack was nearly empty. He was alone. At least he thought he was. Jonas wiped sweat from his face and checked his scanner. No signal, no rescue beacon, just red, fog and trees for miles. Great, he muttered, and stranded on a death world. He pulled out his survival knife and kept walking. That's when he heard it. A low, rumbling growl. Not near him. Ahead. He froze. Another sound. Wet breathing. Slow. Shaky. He stepped forward, pushing aside a glowing fern. What he saw made him stop, breathing. It lay in a shallow crater, half covered in broken branches and blood. A creature. Massive. Muscular. Fanged. Even lying down, it looked dangerous. Its black scales were cracked. One arm was torn. Its chest rose and fell slowly, painfully. It was still alive. Jonas knew what it was. An apex hunter, one of the most feared predators in the galaxy. He had seen videos. Military, footage, training files, old warning posters. They were built to kill, faster than bullets, stronger than tanks, smart enough to track, hunt, and erase enemies. No one approached an apex unless they had a death wish. Jonas should have walked away, but he didn't. He took a step closer. Slowly, the apex didn't move. Another step. Still no reaction. Then, its eyes opened. They were gold, bright, burning. They stared straight into Jonas's, and for a second he swore he saw something impossible. Not rage, not hunger, but pain. Jonas dropped to his knee. He opened his pack and pulled out a medical foam. "I don't know if this'll work on you," he whispered, "but it's better than bleeding out." The apex's eyes stayed locked on him. He sprayed the foam over the torn arm. The creature didn't flinch. Then he sprayed over the ribs. Still nothing. Just breathing. Slower now. "I'm not here to hurt you," Jonas said. "You're hurt. I help. That's it." He looked at the apex again. Still alive, still staring, but not attacking. Jonas backed away and built a small camp nearby, a heat dome, a low fire, just enough to stay warm. He didn't sleep. Not really. He just sat with one eye open, always looking toward the crater. Hours passed. Then, movement. Branches cracked. He sat up fast. And there it was, the apex, crawling out of the crater, dragging its wounded arm, and slowly, coming toward him. Jonas reached for his knife, but didn't draw it. He stayed still. The apex stepped into the light of the fire. Its eyes weren't angry. They were tired. It dropped beside the fire. Close, but not too close, still watching, still breathing, still bleeding, but now near him by choice. Jonas broke a protein bar and tossed a piece toward the creature. It sniffed it, then ate it slowly. Still watching him, he smiled nervously. "Guess that means you don't want me dead." Yet. Later that night, rain began to fall. Jonas moved his gear under the heat dome. He looked back. The apex was still there, lying down again. But this time, not in a crater. Just next to him, like it had decided. This human didn't run. This human helped. This human stays. Jonas whispered softly, "I should be terrified of you. But something tells me you're more than just a weapon." The rain fell harder. Thunder echoed in the distance. But under the red trees and glowing vines, a man and a monster sat in silence. Not as enemies, not yet as friends, but something strange had started. Morning broke, but the sky was still red. Clouds didn't move here. They circled like slow storms, always watching. Jonas Rell stepped out of his heat dome and looked around. The fire had burned out. The jungle was quiet again, too quiet. Then he heard the soft sound behind him, heavy breathing. He turned slowly. It was still there. The apex hunter, sitting, watching, alive. Jonas raised his hands carefully. I'm not food, okay? Let's just stay chill. The apex didn't growl, didn't move, but its golden eyes followed every step Jonas took. Still no attack, still no trust, but something unspoken sat between them. Jonas knelt by the fire pit and restarted the flames. He cut a protein bar in half, tossed one side across the dirt. The apex didn't touch it at first. Then, slowly, it dragged the piece closer, ate in silence. Jonas nodded. Progress. The sun never really rose on this planet. It just grew brighter between the red clouds. Jonas took out his scanner and looked at the map. His ship was far too far to walk in one day, and with beasts roaming the jungle, walking alone wasn't smart. He looked back at the apex. You can walk yet? The apex shifted, then slowly stood on three limbs. The fourth, the wounded arm, hung low, but it was moving. It was following. Jonas started walking, not fast, just enough to test. The creature followed, behind him, not close, not far, just there. Step after step, like a shadow. Hours passed. Jungle sounds returned. Strange birds, hissing wind, chittering bugs, but no big predators, because they sensed what followed the human. Nothing hunted where an apex hunter walked. At midday, Jonas heard rustling ahead. He stopped, listened, then dropped low. Something was out there. Not the apex, something else. He motioned behind him, whispering, "Stay down." The apex didn't listen. It stepped forward slowly, then stopped. From the bushes, a large beast crawled out. 6 legs, mouths across its chest. A local razorback lurker, fast, armored, always hungry. It didn't care about humans. But it hated apex. Scent, and this apex was injured. The lurker hissed, charged. Jonas dove to the side, rolling over wet moss. The apex stood tall, growled low. And when the lurker leapt, it met the apex's claws, a fast blur of teeth and black limbs. The jungle echoed with screams. Seconds later, silence. The apex stood over the dead lurker, breathing hard, shaking. Then it limped back toward Jonas. It dropped near him, bleeding again, wounded, deeper this time. Jonas ran to it. No, don't you die now. He opened his kit and sprayed med foam, pressed sealant patches. His hands worked fast. The apex didn't move, didn't stop him. It just looked into his eyes. Then something happened, something strange. It made a soft noise, not a growl, not a roar, a sound like a word. Rough, deep, almost broken. But it said something. John, Jonas froze. You spoke? The apex blinked slowly, then passed out. That night, Jonas built a larger shelter. He kept the apex near the heat stone. It didn't wake up, but it breathed. And the sound of that breath made Jonas feel something he couldn't explain. He didn't just want to survive now. He wanted this creature to survive too. Not because it was rare, not because it was strong, but because it chose not to kill him. It followed him, it protected him, and now he owed it the same. At the edge of camp, something else watched. Not an animal, not a beast, but a drone, a royal one. Its camera blinked silently as it scanned the camp, then flew off into the clouds, carrying one message. The apex is alive, and it walks with a human. The jungle fog came fast, like it was alive, thick, cold, white. It wrapped around trees, rocks, and bones left behind by forgotten beasts. Jonas Rell tightened the straps on his pack and scanned the horizon. He couldn't see more than 10 steps ahead. His ship's location was still far, and the apex beside him was limping worse than before. They had to keep moving. But something in the fog whispered, "You're not alone." The apex moved quietly, too quietly. Its golden eyes scanned the mist, like it remembered something, like it knew this wasn't just weather. Jonas placed his hand on its shoulder. "What is it?" he whispered. The apex didn't growl, it just stared into the fog, and its nostrils flared. It smelled something, not prey, not beast, but danger. A branch snapped behind them. Jonas spun around. Nothing. Then another sound, soft clicking, like metal on stone. Jonas raised his scanner. The screen blinked red. Unknown signal detected. Multiple sources closing in. Something moved in the fog. A shape. Then another, too fast to see, too quiet to follow. But the apex growled low now, not in fear, in warning. Jonas slowly crouched behind a rock, pulling the apex with him. The creature allowed it, eyes locked on the trees. Then Jonas saw it, a figure, tall, armored, in silver-black plating, not animal, not alien, a soldier, and not just any soldier. Royal grade, elite, silent killers. Jonas whispered, "What the hell are they doing here?" The apex shifted. It didn't move. But Jonas could feel its breath getting faster. Then it did something strange. It reached down and touched the ground with 2 fingers, then drew a symbol in the dirt. A jagged eye crossed with a line. Jonas stared at it. "You know them?" The apex gave one short nod. Suddenly the fog shifted again. A dart flew from the trees, straight toward Jonas. The apex moved faster than thought. It slammed into Jonas, knocking him down as the dart hit its side. The creature roared in pain, but didn't fall. Another dart flew. This time it grabbed Jonas and rolled behind a tree trunk. Jonas gasped. "They're after you. They're here for you." The apex gave a weak growl and looked up. Its eyes weren't just angry now. They were ashamed. More footsteps. Fast, clean. Jonas grabbed his flare and tossed it. Bright red light burst through the fog. The attackers paused, just a moment, but that was enough. The apex stood tall, roared louder than before, and charged into the mist. Jonas shouted, "Wait, no!" But it was too late. The sounds of battle filled the jungle, bones cracking, weapons hissing, trees falling, then silence. Then, a single shadow limped back through the fog, the apex, alive, but bleeding again. And this time, not alone. In its hand it dragged a shattered helmet, silver and broken. Jonas stared at it. "You fought them." The apex dropped the helmet, looked at Jonas, then pointed up. Jonas followed the gesture and saw it. A blinking red light above the clouds. A ship. No, not just any ship. A royal vessel. And on the side, written in glowing script, "Crown Carrier, Princess Elira." Jonas's heart sank. Why would royalty send killers for you? He looked at the apex. The creature stared back, breathing heavy. Then it whispered the word again. But this time clearer. "Jonas." And then another word, one that made his blood run cold. "Run." But it was too late. The sky roared. Engines thundered, and the royal ship began to descend. A door opened in the clouds, a platform lowered, and at its center, a figure in white armor, graceful, deadly, royal. The princess had arrived, and Jonas now stood between her and the galaxy's most dangerous, most hunted beast, a beast that had once killed for the crown. But now, it had chosen a human. The jungle stopped breathing. Birds fell silent. Leaves held their sway. Even the wind froze, because above them, a ship like a floating crown descended, glowing gold and white, carved with royal markings. The ship didn't land. It hovered, untouched by dirt. Then, a wide silver ramp extended, and Boot stepped onto the platform. She walked like a blade, smooth, precise, unshaken. Princess Elira of the Solari Empire. heir to a throne that ruled 10 star systems, and daughter of the woman who created the apex hunters. Jonas Rell stood frozen as the jungle mist parted behind him. Beside him, the apex hunter growled low, claws half-drawn, golden eyes locked on the princess. But Jonas lifted a hand. Wait. The apex didn't move, but it didn't charge either. Princess Aelira stopped 10 feet from them. She studied Jonas with interest, his torn clothes, bruised face, and blood-stained arms, but her eyes narrowed when she saw the apex. Her voice was calm, cold. That creature was made by us, bred to kill, trained to obey. When it escaped, we lost more than a weapon. We lost control. Jonas stepped forward. She's not a weapon anymore. She? The princess raised an eyebrow. You've bonded with it? Jonas nodded. She saved my life. I saved hers. We're not enemies. The soldiers behind the princess shifted. One whispered into her ear. She listened, then turned to Jonas again. You don't understand what you're protecting. That thing killed an entire battalion. It disobeyed its final command. That makes it dangerous. Jonas didn't flinch. She made a choice. She chose not to kill me. The apex growled louder now, its breath hot, heavy. But its eyes weren't wild. They were focused, locked on the woman who once gave it orders. Princess Aelira looked at it carefully, then stepped closer, unarmed, unshielded, face to face. Do you remember me? She asked softly. The apex said nothing, but it looked away. Ashamed. Afraid. Jonas watched in silence, until the princess whispered something strange. Your name was Unit 17X. You were my mother's favorite, but I was the one who named you. I called you Velra. The apex froze, then blinked. That name, Velra, wasn't a command. It was a memory, and for the first time a sound escaped its mouth, soft, broken. Aelira. Jonas's eyes widened. You know each other. The princess nodded. I raised it. For a time. But it became too strong, too free. We feared it would one day turn on us. So we sent it to die in a trial zone. Jonas clenched his fists. You sent her to die because you were afraid? Princess Aelira sighed. No. I sent her to die because we weren't ready for something that powerful to think for itself. She looked at Jonas now. But maybe you were. Silence passed. Then soldiers behind her stepped forward, guns ready. The apex tensed. Claws out. Ready to fight. Jonas shouted, Stop! I won't let you take her. The princess raised her hand. The soldiers froze. Then she walked to Jonas and placed something in his palm. A silver royal sigil, a glowing crest shaped like a flame within a shield. This is a pass, she said. It makes you untouchable. For now. Jonas looked at the badge, confused. You're letting us go? No, she said. I'm letting you choose. Come with me, both of you. Help me understand what she's become. Or run. And we will meet again. Jonas looked at the apex, then back at her. She's not a beast. She's more human than half your court. Aelira didn't smile, but her voice softened. I know. She turned away. And as she walked back to her ship, she added one last line. The real test begins when the galaxy sees what you've done. When they see a human stand beside what they fear most. And then she was gone. The ramp closed. The ship rose into the sky. And Jonas was left with the beast he chose to protect. But now he knew something deeper. She wasn't just a survivor. She was once a daughter, and now she was free. The jungle was quiet again. The royal ship had vanished beyond the clouds, but the weight it left behind stayed. Jonas Rell sat by the fire, his eyes on the silver crest Princess Aelira had given him. It glowed faintly in his palm, proof that he had been seen, heard, and spared. Behind him, the apex hunter, Velra, rested with her back to the rock wall. Her wounds were healing, slowly. But her eyes weren't resting. They were watching him. As always. Jonas looked up. "You had a name," he said softly. "Velra." The creature looked down, almost shy. Not a beast anymore. Not to him. He stood, stepping closer. "You knew her. You trusted her once." Velra didn't reply, but her head lowered, like shame, like a wound deeper than claws. She was going to take you back, Jonas continued. Fix you. Control you again. He paused. "And you didn't run." Velra met his eyes now. Steady. Quiet. Then, slowly, she touched her chest and touched his. A simple motion, but one that said more than words ever could. Jonas blinked. "You chose me?" Velra nodded once. Slow. Certain. In that moment, Jonas understood. He wasn't protecting her anymore. She had made a vow, not in words, but in actions. She would protect him now, not because she was ordered, but because she wanted to. That night, as stars blinked high above, Jonas couldn't sleep. He stared at the firelight flickering across Velra's scales. He remembered the princess's words. "Help me understand what she's become." He whispered to himself, "She became something you never expected." Free. The next morning, Jonas packed his gear. He looked at the crest again. He could take it, board a royal ship, be cleared, rewarded, go home, start over, forget this ever happened. But then he looked at Velra, and he knew he wasn't going anywhere. He turned and threw the crest into the fire. It sparked, melted, vanished. Velra tilted her head. Jonas smiled. "I'm staying with you. We walk together now." Velra stepped forward. She placed her clawed hand gently on his shoulder. A small nod. Silent. Strong. A vow returned. Later that day, they moved deeper into the forest. Together. No one led. No one followed. Not man. Not beast. Just two survivors bonded by choice. But far above them in the royal palace, Princess Elira stood before a council of nobles. She placed her hand on the table. "The apex hunter has bonded with a human," she declared. Gasps outrage, fear. One noble shouted, "That creature was a weapon." Elira answered, "And now it is something more. It protected. It chose peace. It refused orders. It loved." A silence swept the room. One voice asked, "What will you do, Your Highness?" Elira stared out the window, then said, "I won't hunt them. I will watch. Because maybe the galaxy needs to see what happens when a human and a monster walk side by side." In the deep wild under alien suns, Jonas and Velra kept moving. They didn't speak. They didn't look back. But from that day forward, every time he stopped to rest, she stood beside him, still, silent, unshaken, his protector, his vow. The sky was calm, too calm. A strange stillness hung in the air, like the planet itself was holding its breath. Jonas Rell felt it, so did Velra. They stood at the edge of a high cliff, looking over the forest valley below. He had hoped for peace. But peace never lasts on worlds where monsters are made. It started with a flicker, a flash of light, small, far, and rising from the clouds. Jonas narrowed his eyes. Then he saw them. 3 ships, fast, unmarked, and diving straight toward them. He grabbed his scanner. "No ID, no royal tags. These aren't hers. They're Merc's." Velra growled low, claws flexing. She could smell them already. Blood, gun oil, fear, whoever they weren't here for talk. The ships opened, figures dropped, jetpacks, blazing, landing all around. 10, 15, maybe more. Black armor, red visors, heavy rifles. Jonas pulled his knife, knowing it meant nothing against that. One of the men stepped forward, helmeted, voice cold. We're here for the apex. Step away. Human, Jonas stepped in front of Velra. Voice steady, no. They raised weapons. Velra didn't wait. She roared, a sound that cracked trees and charged. The world exploded. Lasers lit the sky. Dirt blasted upward. Trees burned. The mercenaries opened fire, but Velra moved like wind wrapped in muscle. She tore through them, claws slicing metal, tail slamming bodies into rocks. Jonas tried to run, dodging blasts, diving behind a fallen log. But he saw her, in the center of the chaos, protecting him. One merc broke through, got close. Gun aimed at Jonas's back. Velra screamed, leapt. The gun fired, and she took the shot, right in the chest. She hit the ground hard, smoke rising from her armorless side. Jonas ran to her, heart thudding. Velra, her breathing was shallow, her blood dark, but her eyes were still on him, still focused, still watching. The last mercenary stood behind them, gun shaking. Jonas turned, arms wide. Stop! She's down! She's not fighting anymore. The merc raised his weapon. Orders are clear, but before he could shoot, a second roar shook the valley. It wasn't Velra. It was the forest. The creatures. The wild things. Everything Velra had once ruled came back. Dozens of beasts charged from the trees. Fangs, wings, horns. All of them surrounded the clearing, not attacking Jonas, not attacking Velra, but attacking the mercs. Because Velra had protected this land. And now, the land protected her. The last merc ran, screaming, gone. The beasts vanished as fast as they came, leaving only silence behind. Jonas knelt beside Velra. Her body was cold, but not lifeless. He touched her face. You saved me again. You didn't have to. Velra, barely breathing, whispered. I wanted to. He held her hand. I'm not leaving, and he didn't. Not that night. Not ever. Far above, Princess Aelira watched the footage from a secret probe. Her generals demanded action. Apex is wounded. The human is a threat. We strike now. But she said nothing. She watched the human shield the beast. Watched the beast take the blast. Watched the forest rise for them both. Then finally whispered, no. We don't destroy that. We learn from it. And across 1,000 worlds, a new story began to spread. Of an apex that protected a man. Of a man who refused to run. Of a war that never started, because love stood in its way. The war never came, because one human stayed, and one beast chose peace. Velra lay beneath a canopy of glowing leaves, her wounds still healing. Jonas Rell sat beside her, his hand resting gently on her armored back. Days had passed since the mercenaries were driven off. The forest had grown calm again, but not silent. There was a feeling in the air, like the world itself was watching. From orbit, Princess Aelira's royal ship circled quietly. She had not sent more soldiers. She had not sent bombs. She had sent only one message. You are free. Come home, if you choose to. Jonas held the small transmitter in his hand. He could speak. He could reply. He could accept the reward, the titles, the glory. But he didn't press the button. Not yet. Instead, he looked at Velra. She wasn't just a hunter now, not just a protector. She was something rare, a being who had tasted war, then chose kindness. Velra slowly opened her eyes. She tried to rise but winced. Jonas helped her sit up, wrapping her with a heated cloak made from his survival gear. You're not alone anymore, he said. Not now. Not ever. Velra looked at him, then did something no one expected. She reached out and gently pressed her forehead to his. It was her people's oldest vow, a bond not of command, but of trust. Far away, on the palace moon of Solarii, the council debated. They argued about the creature, the human, the risk. But Princess Aelira stood and said just one thing. If peace was ever going to begin, it would begin with those two. Weeks passed. The jungle bloomed with new life. The beast that once feared Velra now followed her. She no longer ruled with strength, she ruled with respect, and beside her always walked Jonas, his boots marked with scars, his heart steady. One day, a new ship landed in the clearing, not royal, not armed, scientific. Diplomats stepped out, hands open. They bowed to Velra, they bowed to Jonas, and they said, "We come not to take you, but to learn from you." Across the stars, stories began to spread, of a man who gave up power, of a beast who gave up rage, and how the two stood together, side by side, as something greater than rulers. Guardians. Jonas never wore armor, never claimed a throne. But in every village, every world touched by Solari's reach, children knew his name, not as a warrior, but as the one who didn't run, the one who looked a monster in the eye, and saw a soul. As for Velra, she would never be called Unit 17X again. She was Velra, protector of the wild, friend to the human, defender of the forgotten. One night, as stars danced above the jungle canopy, Jonas sat by the fire. Velra curled beside him, resting peacefully. He looked up and finally pressed the transmitter. His voice was calm. "To Princess Elira, we will not return to your palace. But if you ever wish to understand what peace really looks like, you're welcome to walk beside us." She never replied, but she never sent another ship. She didn't need to. The message was clear. Some protect with weapons. Some protect with laws. But the greatest protectors simply stay when it matters most.